You're free to do it a cappella if you would like. I'd like to call this meeting to order for the City Council meeting of August 16th, 2016. Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Councilmember Boyson?
Here.
Councilmember Orrock?
Here.
Councilmember Waterfield? Here. Councilmember Zuniga?
Here.
Madam Mayor Patino?
Here. As there are no proclamations or presentations this evening, our first order of business is the public comment session. Madam Clerk, could you please read the criteria for the public comment portion of the agenda?
This time is reserved to accept comments from the public on consent agenda items, closed session items, or matters not otherwise on the scheduled agenda. Unless otherwise directed by the mayor, speakers will have 3 minutes to comment. Direction to staff may be given. However, state law does not allow action to be taken on the city council agenda, not printed on the agenda this evening. Once the public comment period commences, no other speakers will be allowed to submit a request to speak forum.
Madam Clerk, do we have speakers for this evening?
We have one.
We have one. So no other requests will be taken at this time. And Mr. Rod Burns, please. And Madam Clerk, would you please set the timer for 3 minutes? Good evening, Mr. Burns.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, City Council members. My name is Rod Burns. I'm here to speak tonight on behalf of my brother, Jerry Dean Burns, that was murdered March 9th, 2011. I put in a request a few weeks ago to try and get something on the agenda, but was denied. It was a simple 20-second message my brother left to his attorney the day before he was murdered. Will you allow me to play it tonight?
You may.
Thank you. May I use your microphone? I brought my own if I can't.
Yeah, go ahead and use the mic.
Thank you. Would you allow me to play it 2 times? Just
You have 3 minutes.
Just
If you can
twice.
play it, if you can play it within the 3 minutes, that'll be
oh
fine.
yeah, it's 20 seconds long.
Sure.
That was March 8th, 9 o'clock in the morning. March 9th, he was found dead in an alley. I know that this isn't part of the police department's investigation, and I would like to know why it isn't. And I would also like to know when you, the mayor, had knowledge of this message. I know the district attorney had knowledge of this late August, early September 2011. So the police department had knowledge of it also and have done nothing. Can you tell me when you have knowledge of this?
Mr. Burns, I'm not going to respond because that's not what public comment is for. Thank you.
We've had back and forth every other time I've been in here. You've answered my questions. I know it's December 2013. I brought it up here at the city council meeting and nothing was done. I filed a complaint last month on the 27th. And then finally, I spoke with Commander Green. He didn't know anything about it, but I spoke with the city manager, Mr. Hayden, and he informed me that there was an investigation going on.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Byrne. And for your 3 minutes is up. And would you like to make a comment, Mr. Hayden?
Thank you, Mayor Patino, members of the City Council. I did have an opportunity to speak to Mr. Burns last week. Also had an opportunity to speak to Chief Martin. We currently have a citizen's complaint in, and an investigation is being conducted into the matter that Mr. Burns has a concern about. I discussed the city process with Mr. Burns. He has a concern with regards to the police department, and they're following up on this matter. I encouraged him then to contact either the district attorney's office if he has an issue with our police department, the Santa Barbara grand jury, or either the state attorney general's office, and provided him the phone numbers for the district attorney's office and then also the state attorney general's office. So from a procedural standpoint, that is our process. If there's a complaint filed with the police department, they investigate it. If there's a complaint about the police department, we would have an outside party follow up on it, should they choose to do so. And that would either be through the Santa Barbara County Grand Jury, the Santa Barbara County District Attorney, or the State Attorney General's office.
Thank you, Mr. Hayden.
Thank you.
Moving on to the consent calendar, Madam Clerk, could you please read item number 3?
Routine items are presented for City Council approval without discussion as a single agenda item in order to expedite the meeting. The consent calendars are approved by roll call vote with one motion. These items are discussed only on the request of council members.
Any council members have any items they wish to be pulled?
I'll be recusing myself from item C, Madam Mayor.
And Madam Mayor, I will be recusing myself from item C and item H.
Okay. Do I have a motion here?
I'll make a motion to accept the consent calendar as presented with the exception of items C and H.
I'll second.
Okay, having heard the motion and a second, are there any further discussions? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Councilmember Rock?
Aye.
Councilmember Zuniga?
Aye.
Councilmember Waterfield?
Aye.
Councilmember Boyson?
Aye.
Madam Mayor Patino?
Aye.
Okay, I'll make a motion to accept consent calendar items C and H.
I'll second.
Get one at a time.
Okay, item C.
Okay.
Just C only.
Just C,
Oh,
oh.
dude, one at a time.
Okay. Having heard the motion and a second for item C, no further discussion, Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Councilmember Rock?
Aye.
Councilmember Zuniga?
Aye.
Councilmember Waterfield?
Abstain.
Councilmember Boyson?
Abstain. Mayor Patino.
Madam Mayor Patino?
Aye.
Okay, and I'll make a motion to accept item number H in the consent calendar.
I'll second.
It's been moved in second to accept item H. Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Councilmember Rock?
Aye.
Councilmember Zuniga?
Aye.
Councilmember Waterfield?
Abstain.
Councilmember Boyson?
Aye.
And Madam Mayor Patino?
Aye. Next order of business is appointments. Madam Clerk, could you please read the title?
Spill something here.
The City Council will consider making appointments to the Recreation and Parks Commission and the Santa Maria Community Television Board.
That's your report?
Yes.
Okay. Do we have any requests to speak?
No, Madam Mayor, we do not.
Okay, thank you, Madam Clerk. Please continue.
Madam Mayor, members of the City Council, the request before you tonight is to make a couple of appointments to the commission and board just mentioned. I will present the boards one at a time for consideration of the appointments and council ratification. There is one vacancy on the Recreation and Parks Commission following a recent resignation of a member. Staff received new applications from Ann Batterson, Greg Burtnett, and Jeannie Sparks. The appointee will serve for an unexpired term ending in January 2019. The nomination to fill the unexpired term will be made by Councilmember Boyson, confirmed by Madam Mayor with ratification by the City Council.
Okay.
Madam Mayor, I'd like
Mr.
to put
Boyson.
forth the name of Greg Burtnett.
Okay. I accept the nomination and make a motion to appoint Greg Burtnett to the Recreation and Parks Commission.
And I'll second that.
You're going to second? Okay. That motion, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion from the council? Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Madam Mayor Patino?
Aye.
Councilmember Boyson?
Aye.
Councilmember Orrock? Councilmember Waterfield?
Aye.
And Councilmember Zuniga?
And thank you, Madam Clerk. Could you please
I
continue?
don't think
Oh.
Greg is here tonight. I think he's still on vacation with his family, but yeah, I don't see him.
Okay.
Okay, there's one vacancy on the Santa Maria Community Television Board. Staff received one application from Kathy Staples. The appointee will serve for an unexpired term ending in January 2018. The appointment to fill the unexpired term will be made by Madam Mayor Patino with ratification by the City Council.
Okay, I wish to make a motion and appoint Ms. Staples to the Santa Maria Community Television Board. Would anyone like to second that?
Second, I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and second. I have a motion. Any discussion from the council? Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Madam Mayor Patino?
Aye.
Councilmember Waterfield?
Aye.
Councilmember Oroff?
Aye.
Councilmember Boyson?
Aye.
Councilmember Zuniga?
And I know Ms. Staples, there she is. I thought you were back. And I want to thank you very much for being willing to serve.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm delighted, actually. As you know, all of you know, I've had programming on community television for 4 years, and this is an important opportunity because, in fact, community television serves a very important end in our community for transparency for the City Council and for all the good work that you do. Whoever's idea it was, because I watch community television all the time, was you've got promotions for parks out there and our Friday night festival out there. They're really great ads, and just wanted to thank you for that and thank you for your dedication to making sure that community television has an opportunity to talk to all the people in this community and be available with all the knowledge that you bring through community television. Just appreciate it very much. And as you know, I'm a producer and host for 2 nonprofits in focus, as well as the Santa Barbara County Energy and Economic Development Coalition. So it's my pleasure to serve. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much for being willing to serve. Next on the agenda is a public hearing regarding tobacco use in city parks and open spaces. However, this item is being continued to the September 6th council meeting. Comments on this item will be accepted during the public hearings on that date. So moving on to the next order of business, Madam Clerk, could you please read the title?
The City Council will consider a recommendation of the Planning Commission to approve the development agreement for Phase 4 that supersedes Windset Farms' previous development agreement for Phases 1 through 3.
And staff report is being made by Assistant City Attorney, Mr. Cinco.
Present, Your Honor. Good evening, Madam Mayor Patino and members of the City Council. This item is a proposed ordinance that would approve a new development agreement between the city and Windset Farms. This new agreement will replace the existing development agreement that was approved by the council back in August of 2009. The previous agreement permitted Windset Farms to defer construction of certain street and frontage improvements that would have been otherwise required as conditions of the development project phases 1 through 3. The previous agreement anticipated that these public improvements that would be deferred would be constructed in connection with Phase 4 of the project whenever that occurred. As described in the staff report, Phases 1 through 3 of the project have been constructed and are currently operating. Windset Farms wishes to further defer the construction of the required public improvements for Sonia Lane, Carmen Lane, and East Street that would be required as part of Phase 4 of this project, absent a new development agreement. Although these improvements are beneficial and would advance the goals of the circulation element of the city's general plan, staff was not opposed to this request because there is no pressing need to construct these improvements at this time, since there is no development proposal, no other development proposals in Area 9 adjacent to Windset Farms property. This new development agreement will permit the further deferral of the required public improvements, but in exchange, provides that Windset Farms will also construct some additional improvements to West Betaravia Road and a portion of Black Road near the project site to be completed within 3 years from the issuance of the final certificate of occupancy or 4 years from the issuance of the first building permit, whatever's later. As additional consideration for the continued deferral of the required public improvements, as well as the potential loss of some high-paying jobs in the light industrial and commercial manufacturing areas of employment as identified in the Area 9 specific plan, Windset Farms has also agreed to pay the city the sum of $700,000. Planning Commission recommended the City Council approve the development agreement at its meeting on August 3rd, and staff recommends that the council do so as well. That concludes my presentation, and we're available for any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions of Mr. Cinco?
I don't have any.
Is the applicant here, and would they like to make a few comments?
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council. Brian Schwartz, Urban Planning Concepts. I do just have a few brief comments tonight. Before I begin, I would like to recognize a couple of the Windset employees here tonight. Tony Martin is the CFO, as well as David Wesley, who's the development director here. This agreement really represents a collaboration between the city and Windset Farms in order to be able to continue the growth and expansion of their company here in the city. As outlined in the development agreement, there are significant benefits to both the city and to Windset Farms through the agreement. This also provides, the agreement also provides the infrastructure in the appropriate places along the most useful roadways right now, Black and Betaravia, the most visible roadways, and then also provides the phasing mechanisms and the timing and mechanisms so that future roadways and infrastructure will be constructed. As most of you know, Windset Farms employs hundreds of people locally within their existing facilities. They provide full-time employment year-round with healthcare benefits. They're also recognized locally and internationally as being a leader in agricultural technology and environmental sustainability. So on behalf of Windset Farms, I'd like to thank the city for all the work that they've done on this agreement. We hope you'll support it and approve it tonight. We're available for any questions.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, do we have any written correspondence?
No, Madam Mayor, we do not.
Okay. Any questions of Mr. Schwartz? I'm sorry, I should have asked. No. Okay. I'd like to open up the public hearing. Madam Clerk, do you have any requests to speak in favor or in opposition of this item?
Madam Mayor, we have no requests to speak.
Okay. So then I'd like to close the public hearing and bring this item back to the council for discussion or a motion.
Well, Madam Mayor, I'm certainly ready to make a motion. Certainly, Windset Farm has made a substantial investment in our community and has provided some much-needed employment, and we certainly thank you for that. And I'm just glad that we were able to meet both the needs of the city as well as the needs of Windset Farm with this agreement. So with that, Madam Mayor, I would move to approve the development agreement. And also, let's see, ordinance number 2016-17.
Okay, I have a motion to introduce ordinance 2016-17 and continue to the next meeting for adoption, and a second on the floor. Any other further discussion?
Just, they provide some pretty nice tomatoes, too.
Thank you, Mr. O'Rourke. Hearing none, Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Councilmember Boyson.
Aye.
Councilmember Zuniga. Aye. Councilmember Waterfield. Aye. Councilmember Ora.
Aye.
Madam Mayor Patino.
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Schwartz. Thank you,
Okay.
gentlemen. Going to the next item, we have another public hearing. Madam Clerk, could you please read the title?
The City Council will consider a recommendation of the Planning Commission to approve a conditional use permit for Los Primos Market to allow a mixed-use project with an existing 1,642 square foot market, 870 square foot addition, and one existing single-family dwelling at 501 South Lincoln Street on a .27 acre site in the R3 high-density residential zoning district.
And the staff report is being made by Planning Division Manager, Mr. Gilly.
Yes. Mayor Patino, members of the City Council, this is a conditional use permit to reestablish the Los Primos Market as a mixed-use project. The market itself has been at its current location since before the city was incorporated. It was in operation, but it did stop its use in 2013. And the site is in the R3 zoning district, which is a residential zoning district and does not allow a market. But through the mixed-use ordinance, there is a mechanism to allow the reestablishment of the use, and that's what the applicant has proposed. Normally, such a mixed-use permit could be approved by the Planning Commission, but there was a small detail about a setback reduction that, by ordinance, needed to come to the council. So the existing market is located here at the corner, and there is an existing home on the site as well. So the mixed-use ordinance is using the fact that there is a residence, which is the principal use of the site, as well as the market.
The applicant would like to make an addition to the rear of the market, and the R3 district requires a 15-foot setback, and what is being proposed is only 7. But what is proposed does line up with a notch in the existing building, and the applicant has agreed to take out the pavement in the parkway and landscape it and plant trees, in addition to upgrading the landscaping in this area. So staff believes any potential impact of having the addition that much closer to the street is addressed by the fact that there'll be the additional landscaping. In addition, the applicant is going to update the appearance of the structure, update the storefront windows, and replace 2 aged structures in the rear that have been used for storage, and is going to replace that with 2 parking spaces. Whether those spaces are used for employees or for the residents of the home is left up to the property owner. If the setback reduction was only less than a 25% change to the ordinance, this could have stayed at the Planning Commission, but the setback reduction is more like a 50% change, so that requires a council action. But as stated, staff has no concerns with the setback reduction, and the Planning Commission agreed and voted 5-0 to approve the permit. Staff has not received any concerns from any of the neighboring homes or residents in the area, and as noted in the agenda report, the applicant does propose to have alcohol sales, but they have the appropriate ABC license and the appropriate approvals from the city. So in general, staff is recommending approval of the project based on the Planning Commission recommendation.
Thank you. Ms. Waterfield?
Mr. Gilly, did they have a liquor license before in that place?
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions of Mr. Gilly?
I just have a couple.
Okay. Ms.
So
Sylvia?
I did drive by the site. I think the demolition of those 2 metal buildings is going to be really nice because they're old and dilapidated. And I think the additional landscaping is going to be really nice. Do we have any idea what improvements they're going to do to the storefront? Are we talking about just painting, or I didn't think I saw anything specific.
So for the most part, it'll be painting and detailing, maybe on the side of the building where there won't have any storefront windows. They'll put a type of lattice or trellis work with landscaping in between the sidewalk and the building. The storefronts that are currently all blocked, they'll be changing they'll be taking down what's blocking it and making it so that you can see in and see the storefront, see the materials that they have in there. For the most part, the improvements to the building are minor, but the combination of everything they're doing, we think is going to improve the corner a lot.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Is the applicant here, would like to make any comments? Good evening, Mr. Martinez.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, council members. Tom Martinez, architect agent for the project. When the economy took a downturn, Mr. Elias had purchased this, and he'd only been open a couple of years, and he opted to go ahead and close it down without realizing that it was an existing non-conforming use, which he let expire for a year and a half or 2 years. So he basically got, caught in the processing requirement, which is, by the code. Fortunately, he was able to absorb the cost that we are facing with the additional landscaping requirements, which are going to help the site considerably. We do appreciate staff working with us and making this work. They could have asked for a lot more in terms of architecture, but he is spending a lot in terms of the landscaping and dressing up the corner that we think is going to help significantly with the project. So aside from that, we're in agreement with the conditions, and we're here to make ourselves available for any questions.
Any questions of Mr. Martinez? Nope. No questions. Madam Clerk, do we have any written correspondence?
No, Madam Mayor, we do not.
Okay. I'd like to open up the public hearing and begin with those speakers in favor of the program. and followed by those opposed. Do we have any speakers?
We have no request to speak.
So I'd like to close the public hearing and bring this back to the council for discussion or a motion.
Well, Madam Mayor, I certainly, when my office was just a couple blocks down the road from there, I would stop and get my Diet Coke fix about 1 o'clock every afternoon. So I'm happy to see that it's back, although I don't traverse as much as I used to, but I will certainly be stopping in there and look forward to it reopening. But with that, I would put forth motion to approve resolution number 2016-114.
And I'll second that, okay.
And there's been a double second on motion 2016-114.
And I'd like to make a comment if I could.
Yes.
You know, the building's been around for a long time, and it has character, and Ms. Zuniga brought up the point about, it's got a character of its own, and I think totally revamping that would lose that character. It's been around, and I think the architecture stuff and then the two buildings in back going down, it'll be a great addition to that neighborhood. I think the people like Jack can walk over and get his Bud Light or whatever he gets.
I would like to make a comment because this has been sort of a pet peeve of mine because we have stores and we have the windows and they're only supposed to be able to cover a percentage of the windows, and it's not enforced here in the city of Santa Maria. I would certainly like that to be in addition to what they're told when they finish up all their application about the windows, because a lot of times people are saying we've never heard of that.
25%.
And I think we need to tell more of our retailers about the window situation and then enforce it. But anyway, okay. So I have a motion and a second. Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Councilmember Boyson?
Aye.
Councilmember Waterfield? Aye. Councilmember Oroff?
Aye.
Councilmember Zuniga?
Aye.
Madam Mayor Patino?
Aye. Next order of business is another public hearing. Madam Clerk, could you please read the title?
The City Council will consider an appeal by Jonathan Steiner of JD Fabrications of the Planning Commission's approval of a conditional use permit for Golden Bear Winery to allow wine tasting and events at an existing wine production facility at 2115 South Blosser Road on a 2-acre site in a planned development commercial manufacturing zoning district.
Staff report is to be made by Planning Division Manager, Mr. Gilly.
Yes. Madam Mayor, members of the City Council, as stated, this is an appeal of a Planning Commission approval. The site is a multi-tenant industrial building just north of Betaravia Road. The site is in the commercial manufacturing zoning district, which is a hybrid of heavy commercial and light to medium industrial uses. The Golden Bear Winery is existing tenant on the site. They are located in these 3 spaces. They entered into a lease with the property owner to lease this additional space at the corner for a wine tasting room. And they went to the Planning Commission on the 6th of July and was approved for a CUP on a 4-1 vote. JD Fabrications, who occupies these spaces immediately adjacent, spoke at the Planning Commission hearing in opposition and also appealed the approval. The agenda report includes an overview from the City Attorney's Office of the procedures the Council should consider when looking at an appeal. In summary, the Council does not have to give any type of deference to the Planning Commission, but if the Council overrules the Planning Commission, they must identify the reasons the Planning Commission's action was in error. Moving forward, the staff believes the primary issue for the appeal is the appropriateness of allowing non-industrial uses into industrial districts. This is not unique just to this site or to our community, but in this particular case, wine production is considered an industrial use, but when a wine tasting room is proposed, that is considered more for the general public, which is why there is a conditional use permit, so that staff and the Planning Commission and the neighboring property owners and tenants have ability to be part of the process, and potential land use conflicts can be worked through. For some history, this site in 2006 received Planning Commission approval to have large special events that was a combination of meals and wine tasting. Those were events for up to 90 people, and reports from the tenants who were present at that time have stated that those events were too large for the site, that there was issues with parking, issues with some of the behavior of the guests, but staff did not hear any complaints from the neighboring, from the tenants of that period about the wine tasting part of it. It was really the special events that maybe were too large. That brings us to staff's review of this particular case, which is putting wine tasting in this space at the corner of the building near the street. Based on building code and the fact that there is a single restroom in that space, they can only have a total of 15 people in that space at any one time. That would include employees, any type of patrons and such. It is possible that if they expanded the restroom, they could have more people, but the Planning Commission's approval had a cap of 15 persons for regular wine tasting and 30 persons if it was a special event. And special events can only occur on weekends or after work hours. So from the staff viewpoint, having a maximum of 15 people with respect to the available parking and such did not seem to be a major issue from the staff perspective. Leading up to the public hearing, staff was in communication with Golden Bear Winery as well as JD Fabrications, and we were aware that JD had concerns about safety and liability and just the general interaction of their industrial operations with a more retail type use that has customers who maybe aren't expecting what is there, maybe not expecting the industrial operations that are there. All of those issues were raised at the Planning Commission. The Commission ended up making the determination that the issues involved were more suitable to be worked out between the landlord and the two tenants. And the Planning Commission approved the permit on a 4-1 vote. The vote in opposition was by Commissioner Seifert, who did note that in his opinion, the wine tasting operation did introduce an issue of safety next to the metal shop. While the agenda report was being prepared, staff was in communication with Golden Bear and JD Fabrication on the potential to compromise and reach an agreement that could work for both parties. Each group proposed a set of hours that would that they could agree to. And Golden Bear Winery proposed their main tasting hours in green Friday, Saturday, and Sunday from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. and limited amount of tasting. This is appointment only, Monday through Thursday at 10 a.m. until 5 p.m. JD Fabrications made a proposed compromise that focused all the wine tasting outside of the regular work hours on weekdays. Had it on weekends and the option of going past 5 p.m. up to 8 p.m., which was part of the Planning Commission approval. The main issue between these two, if you look at it, is what happens during the weekdays, during the regular business hours. JD was asking that there be no wine tasting in that time, and Golden Bear was asking for at least appointment only Monday through Thursday, and on Friday having the full tasting. That led to continued communication up until even today about could there still be a potential compromise, and a compromise proposed by staff but was not agreed to by the two parties was allowing the full tasting on the weekend outside of the regular business hours, but having the appointment only during the afternoon on Tuesday through Friday. That would allow JD the certainty that the mornings on weekdays would not have tasting. It would provide Golden Bear with the knowledge that they do have the weekend times, but Golden Bear would not receive the full hours on Friday, which they did prefer. For reasons both parties will describe, this ended up not being agreed to, but it did at least represent more communication between the two parties on the topic. So in conclusion, the agenda report lists two alternatives, and a third is also being added at this time. The first alternative is to uphold the Planning Commission approval. You would therefore be denying the appeal, but through that you can still encourage the landlord and the tenants to try to work out the details. The two other options involve overturning the Planning Commission. One option to overturn would be to overturn the hours of operation the Planning Commission approved and set a new condition representing what the council believes is a fair compromise. And the director can put that together into a CUP, and that could be the new approved document. So you would be overruling the conditions of the Planning Commission and establishing a new schedule of hours. Or the third option is to overturn the Planning Commission approval, grant the appeal, and deny the CUP, which would allow no wine tasting at this site. With that, staff's available for any questions, and that concludes our report.
Any questions of Mr. Gilly? Okay. Is the appellant here, would like to make any comments?
Good evening, Mayor and
Good
council
evening.
members. My name is Jonathan Steiner. I'm the owner of JD Fabrications at 2115 South Blosser, Unit 115. We started this business about 3 years ago. It was my fiance and me. The business we started about 3 years ago. We chose this plan or this site just because of commercial manufacturing sort of fitting with what we need to do as far as light industrial manufacturing barbecues. We do a lot of shipping, a lot of receiving of products. Golden Bear using the neighboring Unit 114 wine tasting events came to big surprise to us when they first opened up. It's just not really something we plan to have next to us. We already have, the production side of them making the wine, but having the actual tasting room and alcohol being served next door was sort of a concern. The most concerning to us was regarding the zoning, proximity, safety, and parking that we have there at the complex. We do not want to move our business. We want to operate at this location. Not being at this location, having to move to another location and cause a financial strain just because rent would be about twice as much. Since we've been looking, the closest place we can find is about $3,000 to $3,500. Of course, it's also the cost of having to move all our equipment from one location to another location, re-permitting, and all the city work that has to go along with it. The Planning Commission hearing that we had last time, prior to the Planning Commission hearing, we communicated verbally via email with staff. Unfortunately, we did not present many of our concerns at the Planning Commission. At the best, it was a serious oversight and unconstitutionally affected our fair hearing. A lot of information that we gave to Frank Albro, both verbally at the place whenever we were walking around the unit with him and via email. None of it was ever forwarded to the Planning Commission, so when we went to the hearing, the only concern that they really had, that we even had given, was that our insurance would increase. I don't even know if this would happen. We didn't call our insurance place. We don't know if it would increase or if it decrease or what's going to happen there. We're given like 3 minutes to talk at the last hearing. Some of the stuff that was put up on the board, primarily this, showed that they actually occupied unit, I think it's 103 right next to us. There's actually 2 spaces between us and their manufacturing and the tasting room. So it wasn't just us in between there. We have communicated with Golden Bear through Mr. Gailey to come up with a compromise. At this point, we have been unable to reach a compromise, although we have not reached a compromise weekdays, of course, with the graph that he put it up earlier. We're willing to work with 5 to 8, and then Saturdays, Sundays, whatever they want to do. If they want to go 10 to 8, whatever it is. We feel this works best because our shipments of material come from Fresno. They come from Paso Robles. They come from locally here in town. Of course, the trucks, who knows where they're coming from. Our trucks pick up anywhere from 1 o'clock to 5 o'clock at night, along with a lot of the other complexes around the unit. They have trucks coming anywhere from 7 o'clock to 5 o'clock in the evening. Trucks are going in and out. It's a one-way road that comes in. Right-hand turn, which is wide turn for most trucks. Then they have to do another right-hand turn, which is another wide, and another wide around the whole entire complex. It's pretty much all right-hand turns for most of the larger trucks. The problem with this is normally they have to cut into most of the parking spots in the very beginning, the very end, the back corner, and then the last one they can pretty much make without having to cut into any parking spots. If cars were parked in that area, I've been asked personally myself to move my truck out of the way. That way the trucks can get through. I think even back in the back corner where some of the places are, they've had the same issue. The building zone for PDCM commercial use, purpose of zoning is promote growth of the city in an orderly manner, protect safety and comfort of general welfare. The issue in CPU is understandable. I understand some businesses do fit in with other places and they need a CUP to be able to adapt and work in those particular areas. When we chose this building as a startup business 3 years ago, we took zoning into consideration. We did not want to be an annoyance to anyone and future neighbors, so we were very careful to select this as best suited our needs. Zone commercial, manufacturing, and industrial are away from residential properties and retail businesses. But putting an alcohol establishment next to manufacturing district, especially within such close proximity to a fabrication shop, we feel is sort of a safety issue. Manufacturing and storage makes up about 96% of this whole entire complex as a whole. If you did add the CUP, it'd be 4%. That would actually be a retail location. There's barbecue grill manufacturing, food manufacturing, spice manufacturing, metal blade manufacturing, and wine manufacturing that makes up quite a majority of it as well. An establishment whose sole purpose is to serve wine and retail customers does not mesh with the existing businesses and operations in that area. Proximity and safety concerns. We are concerned with the proximity of the proposed tasting room to our existing metal fabrication business. The tasting room is immediately next door to the bay door. The first picture, 4 pages in, just shows where their area is and where ours is. There's literally just about a 2-foot beam, then their bay door, and then their door right off to the side. Oftentimes we have 900-pound pieces of metal that are about 5 by 10. 20-foot sticks are moved in and out of the door daily. We ship probably about 80 to 90% of our product, finished product. We have delivery trucks picking up between, again, 8 to 5 o'clock, as so do many of the other complexes here. We receive material deliveries daily between the hours of 8 to 5 p.m. That's another reason why we'd sort of like to push it beyond the 5 o'clock hour to 8 o'clock hour, just to sort of avoid the conflict of trucks moving, forklifts being out and thing, and retail location, customers coming into the location. And then you can see on the next page, there's, of course, a material truck. That's probably one of the larger trucks that do come to our complex from Fresno. We can't tell them to bring a smaller truck. They have to bring what they're going to bring because that's how they make their money. We operate as safely as possible. We're dealing with very heavy material being loaded on and off trucks in front of Unit 115. That's the side that we work on, so of course that's the side that we unload and load from. We still have concerns mixing wine and tasting room next to heavy machinery. It's planning division's job to make sure that CUP does not have an effect on safety and welfare of the public. In this case, we feel there would be an effect on safety and welfare of the public should Golden Bear be at this location serving wine. We have requested acceptable methods of unloading and loading from our trucks. Of course, this complex was built back, 16, 17 years ago. Since then, there's been a revision in the municipal code as far as unloading and loading. This complex, as we've been told by Peter, should have at least one unloading and loading zone in it, and it currently doesn't. So the proposed unloading and loading method that we've heard so far is to set up cones into the parking stalls to create sort of a 22-foot aisleway for fire trucks and ambulance and whatever else needs to come through, especially customers that are driving around the building. You can sort of see that on the next page. There's a picture of the building. It has, I think it's sort of dark, but there's a truck there, and then we sort of put little cones to show sort of what happened. Of course, if there's retail at this location and you got cars that are being parked there, to try to find an unloading and loading zone, to be able to put cones into the parking spots would be really difficult to do. I mean, we might have to possibly unload and load from the far end of the shop and then bring the material all the way into the bay doors, which of course is long travel, especially with a lot of heavy metal. Many of these issues result in the complex having very poor, already went over that one, sorry about that. And then again, the next page, sort of as Peter is going around the complex, just showing that each truck has to make a wide turn. Right-hand turns pretty much most of the trucks can do as far as the 50-foot ones. The next page after that one shows a truck entrance, sort of a blind spot, especially where 114 is. You can't really see it as you're going around, so cars that do go around that corner are at a blind spot. The basis of being plenty of parking on the south side, which is, of course, our side, Gravoni and Adamo, is that he has so many units itself. He has about 8 units as it is. Currently, last time we talked to him, he said that by the end of the year he's planning to move out, or at the beginning of next year he's planning to move out. They're building the off-site location for manufacturing and for wine tasting as well. So if those units open up to 8 individual people, of course, there's going to be a lot more traffic on that end as well. And a retail location bringing in even more cars would cause more of congestion in that location. McKean Phillips did have a wine tasting unit in this area, which is the 114, which was proposed in 2016. At that time, they owned our metal fabrication unit, the unit next to it, and of course, the 3 that Golden Bear is in right now. So to have a wine tasting unit wasn't as big of a deal because there wasn't as much manufacturing going on in that particular area. Of course, you saw the truck issues, but the trucks were primarily going to the north end side. We asked for some companies here in town that are doing, of course, the same thing with CUPs and wine tasting. Costa de Oro was one of them that was brought up. Of course, that's by Cool and Luke's. I think that location is pretty suited for what they're doing. Tintero Winery is in Westgate, which is Bill's other unit. They do appointment only tasting. CUP, Central Coast Wine Services, we contacted them, spoke to their wine manager. He said that they don't currently do wine tasting events. They're at their location. And then Santa Maria Brewery, in one of these pictures, it says Santa Maria Brewery about 2 pages in. Of course, they have a huge lot, 3 exits, a row that wraps around the complex. And they're not actually doing manufacturing there. It's KPMR, which I believe is a radio station, Intravision, and Cal State Auto Parts. Possible solutions, Golden Bear already advertises at the tasting by appointment only at 215, a unit 118, which is not 114 that they're proposing right now. We spoke to ABC. They said that they're allowed to do tasting by appointment in that location. We spoke to Peter earlier about it too. He said that's sort of a gray area and they're allowed to do it as well. So our proposal is that if they were to do wine tasting earlier during the day between 12 and 5, that they move it to 118, which is 3 units further over from us. It does get away from the retail location being directly next door to us. Still don't feel really comfortable with it, but it's an exception that they'd be able to open up. And then after 5 to 8, they'd be able to do 114, and then on weekends, they'd be able to do 114 as well as far as wine tasting. And then the back page just shows that on Santa Maria wineries, they have advertised that they, of course, do 118 as wine tasting by appointment. And on their website, they stated as well. And that's it. Any questions?
Any questions from council? Oh, okay. Did you have a question? Oh,
No,
okay.
said not right now.
Okay. Is the applicant here? Would they like to make any comments? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Sinor.
I'm Jana Schmidt, 2115 South Placer Road. And my comments will be followed by Teresa Leal, who I'm trying to bring in into a partnership to open the wine tasting room. So good evening to Madam Chairman and the distinguished members of the council. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak on behalf of Golden Bear Winery and our tasting room. I'm the current owner of Golden Bear Winery, and I'm looking forward to creating this new partnership in order to grow my business. I've owned and operated sole proprietorship since I was 17 years old. Currently, along with running the winery and being the winemaker, I'm also an educator, and I teach in the Santa Maria Bonita School District. Golden Bear Winery is primarily a crush production and wholesale winery operation, but there's a final step that needs to be taken in order for this winery, or any other for that matter, to become complete. There must be a retail outlet on site where the wine is produced, cellared, and bottled. A tasting room provides a place for interested and potential customers to taste the wine before purchasing it. Who wants to take a chance on purchasing a premium wine without tasting it first? My vision for a tasting room has always been to have a warm and friendly, yet elegant space. It would be a space for people to learn about the wines, ask questions about the process, and hear our backstory. It's inevitable that Santa Maria will move toward this configuration of the retail wine tasting room that are located near or on the wine production premises. Grape growing is one of the largest crops in the Santa Maria Valley. It just makes sense to retain the retail commerce along with the producers themselves. We're asking for this conditional use permit in order to better serve the local wine culture as well as visitors to the area. We hope and need to develop a wine club, which is the life's blood of any winery. We will offer a pleasant atmosphere for tasters, present wine education when requested, and continue crushing and producing the wonderful wines that can be developed from the crops grown in the fabulous Central Coast climate, and specifically from the Santa Maria Valley.
Thank you, Mrs. Schmidt.
Thank you.
Mrs. Leal.
And I'd like to introduce Teresa Leal.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and City Council members. My name is Teresa Leal, 2115 South Blosser Road. I kind of like to talk about the parking and safety issues involved here. Again, you know, we are limited to the number of people that we're able to have in the tasting room according to the building department. This is something that is going to be new and developing, and we don't foresee it like exploding and taking off and having all this traffic and all these people coming to the tasting room on a daily basis. And if we do appointment only, the Tuesday through Friday, I would say maybe we're hoping for 2 to 3 people during those 4 days. And then on the weekends, we hope to get a few more people, maybe 5 to 10 people visiting the tasting room on Saturdays and Sundays. So this will only involve a couple of cars at a time. Golden Bear Winery employees will park down by 117 and 118, freeing up all the front parking for the customers. So they wouldn't have to walk in front of the JD Fabrications bay door, and would be able to park and walk directly to the tasting room. I know that in the other meetings and correspondence that they worried about intoxicated people walking into their bays and doing business. One way to resolve this would be to work with the bays closed down, and that would eliminate the patrons or customers, our customers, walking into their bays. Safety is around us every day. It's how we mitigate and how we address the safety issues that we're presented with. As business owners, it's our responsibility to operate in a safe manner as possible. Golden Bear Winery has taken it upon itself to train our personnel on safe operating procedures. It is also the responsibility of JD Fabrications to do the same. Whether it's our guests or the guests of other tenants or the tenants themselves, it's JD Fabrications' responsibility to make sure they are operating in a safe manner. so to ensure the safety of everyone who works and visits the complex. So as far as a lot of traffic, and, on the south side of the building, we don't have a lot of traffic. Again, most of the businesses are on the north side. In the times that I'm there, I don't notice a lot of trucks going in and out. There are some deliveries on a daily basis. I was there all day yesterday, didn't observe any deliveries on our side of the building. But again, safety issues can always be mitigated. If they're worried about running over somebody with a forklift, it's driving a forklift is like driving a car. We need to be aware of our surroundings, what we're doing, how we're operating, and making sure that, we're being safe to the other people. On the compromise that Mr. Gilly presented, with the last compromise, we agreed to it. We agreed to the appointment only Tuesday through Friday and just wine tasting on Saturday. We don't have a problem with that. Again, we're just growing our business. We know it's not going to get crazy busy, but we need to start somewhere. So I appreciate your time. And
Thank you, Ms. Leal. One moment, there's a
Ms.
question.
Neal, I need a clarification. Did you say that you were in agreement to do the appointment only from Tuesday to Friday and then on weekends?
Yes, and then weekends have full tasting.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Boyson?
If I may, Madam Mayor. So a couple of things. Ms. Schmidt mentioned that you must have a retail on site, but of course, we're talking about having the wine tasting room separated by the fabricating shop at this point in time. I mean, do you anticipate that people would be wine tasting in the wine tasting room and then you'd bring them into the winery, or?
By law, tasting can only occur in the wine tasting room. So
But-
people cannot leave and walk around, drinking wine.
But aren't you already doing wine tasting in your existing facility at
By
118?
appointment only, I might get
By
one person a
appointment
month,
only.
or one couple a month. And then some of my wholesale customers come in to taste the wines there also, in 118.
So the compromise that was suggested by staff of having tasting only during the week and then wine tasting during the weekend, by appointment on wine tasting during the week, would that be done, you would anticipate that to be done at 118 as it is now?
No, in 114. That was what staff suggested, that we agreed to.
And what would be, I guess
Well,
if there's
one-
only going to be one or two people, why would you really need the full wine tasting room?
118 is a case goods storage room, and it's almost full. I just have one little bar in there, one little space.
Right.
So it's not a wine tasting experience. It's not a place where customers can come in and maybe look at your merchandise and see your history on the wall and give us an opportunity to maybe entertain them by telling them our backstory and giving them information and things like that. It's a very small little area just crammed into the very front of the warehouse. So it's...
You need more space for the wine tasting.
It's not really a wine
is what
tasting
you're
room at all.
saying, but it sounds to me like, I guess I'm not understanding why that retail operation would need to be on site. I mean, could that retail operation be in a totally different building somewhere? If they're not going to be coming into your wine production facility.
Well, our concern is that we're going to run into the same situation wherever we apply. We're going to have to probably get a CUP because there isn't a space for us. In Santa Maria, there isn't an area where you can have wine tasting rooms, per se. And it's always nice to have your winery by your wine tasting room. Maybe at some point down the road, maybe we would give them a tour. Right now that isn't in our, it's not on the plate right now, but it's always nice for them to know that the production is happening right there.
I mean, and I can't speak for the rest of the council, but I know this council member would love to see that wine tasting room somewhere near the downtown area of Santa Maria and that sort of thing. But
Well, now that is something we're talking about. It's just not ready for us yet. And in order for me to grow, I have to figure out a retail outlet.
Sure.
The wine clubs are what support a winery. And quite frankly, I have to have it at this point. So.
Thank you very much. And by way of ex parte, I have met with both the applicant as well as the appellant and heard both sides of their story.
Thank you, Mr. Boyson. Did you have a question, Ms. Inigo?
I was just curious about, because you're limited to a total number of 15, including staff, what is the number of staff you would expect to have on site?
Just right now, it'd be one person managing the tasting room. Maybe on the weekends, there'd be maybe two people handling it with hopefully more people coming in.
Which would limit your customers to 14 or 13,
Yes.
so not significant. Okay, thank you.
Madam Clerk, do you have any written communications?
Madam Mayor, I do not.
Okay. So I'd like to open up the public hearing and I'm sorry, did you turn in a note? Oh, okay. Okay. Well, wait. I'm going to open up the public hearing is what I'm going to do right now. That's all right. So I'd like to open up the public hearing and begin with those speakers in favor of the program, follow those opposed. So neutral, opposed. Okay, so I'm going to take the neutral one. That's William Lavoie. Okay. Good evening.
Madam Mayor, City Council, thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak. I am the owner of 2115 South Placer, along with the bank. I have been invested in Santa Maria since 1988. I'd like to give you a little history of what I have experienced so far with this problem. On 11/12/15, I signed a lease with Janice Schmidt that included Unit 114. The lease also states that 114 would be a tasting room. On 3/6/16, I found out that Janice was selling her winery to One Antler. I signed a consent to assignment of lease interest as requested by their attorney. On 6/30/16, I found out by watching the Planning Commission meeting that I had approved a wine tasting room. I had not signed any application for a conditional use permit. On 7/1, I found out that Janice was having a problem with JD. I sent a letter to Janice in regards to that. On 7/4, Janice called, denied having a problem with JD, and denied doing any improvements to 114. On 7/8, talked with Peter Gilly at the City of Santa Maria about the situation with Janice. Found out Janice pulled no permits for the improvements, but yet I found out that she had claimed that they had done $34,000 worth of improvements without my approval. On 7/9, I sent a letter to Janice telling her that she was in violation of her lease. I also told her what she had to do to correct the situation. On 7/14, I got a copy of the conditional use permit that Janice had signed as owner of my property and had stated that she was doing business as Bill Lavoie. On 7/27, I had several conversations with Frank Albro. He had asked me to sign a new application for the conditional use permit. I have refused. And I have also refused to sign any lease with One Antler until this whole situation is cleared up. One Antler is not a tenant of mine at this time. In fact, until recently, I had absolutely no idea when escrow was going to close on this transaction. 728, do you want me to keep going?
Madam Mayor, I would like to hear the rest of this.
Yes, everyone says yes.
Okay. On about 728, Teresa Leal has started sending me the requirements that I have requested on clearing up the lease. To this date, it has not been completed. I also found out, and I have to backtrack a little bit, that Antler One has applied for the permits for the improvements to Unit 114. On 8/4, I had my attorney send Janice a 30-day notice to perform covenants or quit. So she has about 15 days left to get the permits completed, to get lien releases, copies of the contracts, all of that stuff that was required in the lease. Thank you for your time. Do you have any questions?
Any questions of Mr. Lavoie from anyone?
I'd like to ask a question of Mr. Gilly based on this. As far as the permitting, do we know that has there been improvements made without permits?
There were tenant improvements made without permits. The application to legalize what was done did come in. Much of the work is actually, I would say, is to undo things that were done. Based on Golden Bear's discussions with staff, they are waiting until the resolution of this appeal before they pull those permits.
I don't understand. To undo, you mean they were demolishing existing?
There was some work done with a mezzanine and a spiral staircase that was without permits and couldn't be permitted. So some of the work, part of the permit is to undo that and then have it inspected.
But part of that work has been done without those permits?
Yes, work has been done without permits.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Mayor, I have a question for legal counsel. With the owner of this building coming in and not giving any kind of authorization for a tenant to even apply for a CUP, do we go forward, or does this null and void what's been going on? Because apparently he wasn't even in the loop with so much of the information that was going on. So how do we proceed on this?
Good evening, Madam Mayor, council members. It's my understanding that the owner he's here tonight. He has not objected to it. If he gave us a firm commitment that he would not sign that CUP, then our advice would be that this would probably be a moot issue, since we would not be able to issue it absent the owner signing off on this application. But the resolution tonight, I believe that if there is a resolution, the owner would sign off on that. And I believe we did get that in writing from the owner.
We have a copy of the lease, and we only have a verbal statement that the owner gave to the applicant.
Okay,
well, let's ask the owner right now.
I recommend you ask the owner that question if this appeal is granted, or would he approve it?
And your response?
I have tried to honor the lease. As far as I'm concerned, they are still in violation of the lease, and I really don't want to sign anything until the lease is cleared. In other words, either the permits are pulled, and I get copies of the contractor's contract, lien releases, liability insurance. That's all in the lease, that they have to complete all of that stuff to clear the lease. Now, if they can't clear the lease, then there isn't any point in me signing any conditional use permit, because I'm going to start eviction based on the violation of the lease.
Do you have a question, Mr. Boyson?
I guess I'm assuming that's a no.
I'm sort of in a damned if I do and damned if I don't situation.
You're not in a position tonight to sign the application
Right.
if it's approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
I guess.
Mr. Orrick?
I'm totally confused, but I want to say up front, I met with both the applicant and the appeal. Well, the appeal is the applicant here tonight, and then the Golden Bear folks earlier. I've heard both of their stories and read a ton of stuff. I guess a simple mind like mine doesn't quite comprehend, other than personal opinion, that they shouldn't go anywhere here tonight. This is not our opportunity to try and hope or nudge or move things along. And I guess either continue this or drop this issue, and then it should come back in some way, shape, or form, because I'm not in the mood to he said, she said. And then I'm also a little concerned that, and unfortunately, Mr. Albro became ill. And so some of the information that I understand did not get pushed on to the Planning Commission, I'll say appropriately, so that they can make a determination. And so it's not necessarily in my mind that they had all the facts and voted from the facts for either permitting or denying the CUP. So,
but I think we still need to hear the rest of the public.
Yes.
Oh, yes,
yeah.
that's true.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Michael Schmitz, followed by Chad Leal.
Okay, Michael.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, distinguished members of the council. Thank you for the opportunity to speak on behalf of Golden Bear Winery. I had the pleasure of meeting with all of you last week. Hope I answered some questions and ease some concerns that you may have. I think my wife said really all that, in light of a few things that have been said, that I was going to say about how we intend, or what our plans are to move forward with our business and how we tend to conduct ourselves, and the way we want to run our business. The way other wineries and tasting rooms that have been in those spaces, and I think I shared that with most of you that asked those questions last week. There's really no comparison to what we are going to do or plan to do. As you all have heard, we've been limited to 15 patrons at a time, or 15 people. So if we have 2 workers, that's 13 patrons. So an event situation, large numbers of people, things like that shouldn't be a concern. I don't think they are a concern. We would like the opportunity to move forward with our tasting room that we've worked hard on since last fall. In light of what's just been said and some other issues that we're going to be facing, I don't know how we'll move forward from this point. I think we're amenable to I think Mr. Gilly would agree that we've always been amenable to compromise and trying to work things out. Tasting room hours after 8 o'clock in the evening are almost, unless you're going to have events, which we are not going to have, are almost there. No one comes wine tasting after 8 o'clock at night. And I think we've already shrunk down the hours quite a bit from what we had proposed initially, and still prepared to see if things can be worked out. And with that, unless you have any questions, I thank you for your time this evening. I thank you for your service.
Any questions of Mr. Schmidt? Okay. Chad Leal?
Good evening, Madam Mayor and City Council members. My name is Chad Leal. I'm at 2115 South Blosser. I am the tasting room manager at Golden Bear Winery. I would just like to say that as tasting room manager, I've taken it upon myself to attend a lead class, 2 ABC classes with RBS, and 1 class at Cal Poly on tasting room management. So with all those classes, I have been taught how to manage patrons, how to manage the pours, how to manage intoxicated persons, how to avoid that, how to and when to call the police if there is a possible DUI, if there's any other emergencies or anything like that. As far as safety is concerned, I'm taking it upon myself to train other staff when we do have more staff. Right now it's just myself. So we will be escorting and checking on each other, just to make sure that that our patrons are able to make it to the car safe and sound. I will be letting them know that they are and reminding them that they are an industrial park. So to be aware of possible traffic coming through and our next door neighbor with their forklift and operations. And that's about it. Is there anything else you guys like to ask me?
Any questions of Mr. Leal? Oh, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
That's it. Miss Waterfield.
I have one comment for staff. The owner of the property had indicated earlier that Mrs. Schmidt had put a name on the lease as One Antler. Do they have a business license? Do we have a business license for One Antler in Santa Maria, do you know?
There is a business license for the spaces that Golden Bear is currently in. I don't know off the top of my head if that is with Golden Bear or with One Antler.
Any comments from the council?
Well,
Mr. Boyson?
I've got a couple. I think,
Okay.
in light of what the landlord has told us, it places a whole different light on this decision specifically. But I would like to talk a little bit in more general terms of, where the city of Santa Maria has always been known for being business friendly and being as flexible as possible. I think we showed it with the market on South Lincoln today that, hey, we'll find a way to make it work. But I think we need to rethink of where we really want to encourage these wine tasting rooms. Is it the goal of the city of Santa Maria and the goal of the city council to attract people to A Street and Blosser and this sort of thing for doing wine tasting? Or are we looking at maybe providing incentives for getting them closer to downtown or for getting them closer to areas where we really want to get the public excited about Santa Maria? I mean, quite honestly, I don't see anything where the public would be real excited about Santa Maria at 2015 South Blosser unless I'm operating a fabricating shop, where I want to be kind of left alone. And I think that's what Mr. Seiner is saying, is that, hey, look, I came here, the zoning was such that I felt that I could do this with compatible users, and so far he's had, he's been able to do that, and now all of a sudden something new has come in, and it is different. It's not that it's worse. So I guess just in this particular circumstance, I think the use is not compatible for operating on the same hours that the fabricating company does. I quite honestly think, as reading through the material that Mr. Seiner gave us tonight, I think that he's proved somewhat flexible in saying, hey, look, you can do all the wine tasting you want by appointment in Unit 118, which is 2 doors down from him, and use 114 in the evenings or during the weekends. And I think that's a pretty good compromise. I'm not even sure as a city councilman that I'm 100% comfortable with that. I'm just not sure that these are the type of areas that we want to be encouraging this type of an activity. We had a similar situation with Libertine Brewery that did not pass city council. That was a little bit different because we had individual condo type of industrials that we decided that, hey, the property owners that own those properties next door had certain rights, and this is a little different because it is a leased property. But now we have the owner of the property coming in saying that he's not ready to sign that CUP today. So I think, one, we need to rethink from a planning department we need to rethink and we need to come up with some sort of guidelines. And I don't want to come up with a winery ordinance like the County of Santa Barbara has, but I would like to come up with some sort of guidelines and have this discussion with the Planning Commission on where do we really want to encourage some of these wineries. Quite honestly, I saw one location that was approved for wine tasting that absolutely, if it had been appealed, I can almost guarantee you it would have been 5-0 on this council not to accept it. And because it is in a very busy industrial area with forklifts going back and forth and inventory stacked up outside and this sort of thing. And I understand what Mrs. Leal says, that JD Fabrication has obligations too. They can close their bay doors. I've done welding before, and I know what that would be like if you don't have a breeze going through there on the few hot days that we have here in Santa Maria. And I'm not sure that it's JD's responsibility, JD Fabricating's responsibility to adjust to the new tenant. I think it's kind of the other way around. So I'm just not supportive of this at this time. I would certainly rethink it if we could come up with some sort of compromise as far as the hours of operation, and certainly if Mr. Lavoie was amenable to or would be in agreement to sign off on the permits. But even at that, I would still want to consider it carefully. So those would be my comments, and I think at this point in time, I don't think we have anything that we can do until Mr. Lavoie and the tenants come to some sort of an agreement.
Mr. Ora?
Well, I'm going to take your, and I think you're absolutely right. What's interesting is my brother in Tucson owns Auroch Machine Shop, so I'm extremely familiar with the loads coming in and out of product, which is significant because steel or whatever you're unloading is and the trucks, they're not going to run around with 50,000 pounds of steel that is for here, there, and here and there, so you can designate when that comes. One of the things in my mind that I've been studying is that 118 looks to be, because you're currently doing some barrel tasting or whatever you want to call it, but it is wine tasting in that area. And I'll just say, I belong to a few wine clubs, and I've been to McKinnon Phillips on a number of occasions. Actually, they were evening occasions where they had the meals and stuff like that, which didn't seem to affect, but I guess the neighbors, during the daytime was certainly a different story. This frightens me, I guess, because I could see, if it could be worked out, that the wine tasting probably would be best suited 118 rather than on the corner, because there's not a lot of room to get around there, and I feel you would probably be playing musical chairs to move cars so that a truck and those guys come in with a 40-footer or something of that nature. There's not a lot of room to get around there. So at this time, and particularly Mr. Lavoie coming in, and I don't want to say dropping a bomb, but that's basically what he did tonight. So from that aspect, I would probably go along with Councilman Boyce.
I would like to make a couple of comments. I too have met with the appellant and the applicant, and I went out there to see what was going on, and I was there probably early afternoon, and a couple of trucks did come in, and there isn't enough space. And I know this building was built several years ago, and the ordinances and the zoning was different then. But there isn't enough space when you've got a big truck parked there, and you've got a FedEx truck coming around and trying to get in further down. And I understand what the problem is. And I would agree with Mr. Boyce, and I don't think that JD Fabrication needs to adjust what they're doing. And I've been around welders, my husband welds, and I understand what goes on with fabricating and machinery. And here is a young couple, Mr. Sinor and Ms. Frias, and they are working so damn hard, and they're dirty, they're not pushing papers and working on a computer. They're out there working with their hands, and they not only have put their financial capital there, but their emotional capital in that business. And after hearing everything I heard tonight, I am absolutely ready to overturn the Planning Commission approval, granting the appeal and denying the CUP. To me, it doesn't have to come back, but anyway. Ms. Waterfield, you had comments?
I do have comments, and I have to agree with my colleagues, starting with Mr. Boydson, all the way to the mayor. I know that there is a trend going on the Central Coast where industrial properties, wineries go in there. But the history of Santa Maria is Santa Maria has been the biggest manufacturing and industrial hub on the Central Coast. We're not a Buellton, we're not a Lompoc, we're not an Atascadero. So when wineries do want to go into industrial / manufacturing places, they're looking at pretty much hardcore businesses to be next to. I agree that JD Fabrication does not need to move. I had the opportunity to meet not only with them, but also with the owner, Mr. Schmidt. And I walked the property. I walked through JD Fabrication. The mayor said it very well. This is two hardworking couples that are trying to make a life in Santa Maria. And so I agree with what they're doing there because they have established a great business that should stay there. I want to address what Mr. Boydson said in regards to wineries. We do, with that, need to create a location in Santa Maria, whether it be the downtown area. We need to come up with incentives to encourage wineries and breweries, or we also need to look at new developments that are coming into Santa Maria. Take the 55-acre Betaravia property next to the police station. They are doing creative designs to where you can go in and have brand new wineries along with bistros, and the wineries can come in and put up their own business there. They don't need to be next to their production. And it's a win-win not only for the wineries, but for the bistros and for everything else that's going on. And so I think we have to, think out of the box in those type of things, because we do have a great wine business here in Santa Maria. We have beautiful vineyards. And I'd go up against Napa anytime with what we have here. We just got to make sure that we create those instances where we can bring the public into a safe environment, to where people that have to drive forklifts aren't worried about who might be passing through their doors or walking around the area. So with what we learned today, and especially with Mr. Lavoie not even accepting this, I would have to agree with the rest of my colleagues on the vote on this one.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate the opportunity to speak.
Ms. Zuniga.
Yes, I just have one question. Mr. Gilly, the comments tonight have been this is a new business there, but was there wine tasting there previously in that suite?
There was wine tasting and the special events with McKean Phillips.
Okay, because the conversation has been about, well, this is new, when I thought I had heard somewhere in all the conversations that there had been wine tasting before. In terms of the item that's before us tonight, I don't agree or disagree with my the council members and the mayor. I just feel like I don't have enough information to really make a decision about here, given what we've heard from the owner of the property. So, not wanting to not take what he said, was kind of unsure about, well, if they could get the permits, then maybe I would sign off on it if they could do the work. So I just think based on the information that came to light this evening, I'm not prepared to either offer a comment for or against, because I don't feel like we have all factual information to make a educated decision, informed decision, I guess I should say.
So, excuse me, Madam Mayor, may I interject? May I interject?
Yes, you may.
So you have three alternatives on the board behind you. To walk you through this, alternative number one, if the council were to approve denying the appeal, That would be the last action necessary for this council and the city to take to approve. But ultimately, it'd be between the tenant and the landlord to resolve their differences. So the final action would be between the landlord either signing off on this approved CUP or not. Of course, number 2 is a hybrid alternative, which would self-explanatory, and then number 3 would be recommendation J in your staff report: overturn the PC approval, granting the appeal, and denying the CUP. We have to keep in mind that either aggrieved party could challenge the City Council's decision. Both resolutions have findings that we believe are supported by the evidence in the record. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
So
Okay.
I guess I'd be willing to take a shot at this, and, and we can see which one flies and which one gets accepted. My first recommendation would be to overturn the PC approval and direct the Community Development Director to prepare a modified CUP with new conditions representing what City Council believes fair compromise for hours. I think I'd change that to say, you negotiate a compromise. I think they've heard what our thoughts are now and come back to us with a compromise for hours. I'd rather see it come back to the council rather than go back to the PC without the possibility of the council weighing in on this.
Can I add? I'm sorry.
Okay, Ms. Zuniga, go ahead.
So I'm just curious about how then the owner's concerns get involved in that, because it's like, you're talking about them working out a compromise between the two businesses.
And that would be included in the Community Development Directors to prepare the modified CUP, because we've heard that we need to have the owner sign the CUP as well.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
I would go with alternative number 3, because I don't believe that this is a compatible business. There are safety issues here, and Mr. Borson, you were even concerned about the safety issues, even going down to the other unit. So this is JD Mac Fabrication is a business that does do a lot of fabrication, it's welding. They don't need to be concerned with patrons, coming around the area, looking in, because you're going to have looky-loos that come in and want to see what they're doing. So I would definitely go with number 3, and especially what we just heard from Mr. Lavoie. That would be my
And the only reason I'm even going with number 2 is just because it sounded like there was some potential middle ground with Mr. Seiner, Ms. Frias, and the Golden Bear Winery, that there were possibly some hours that they could live with. So, and that's the only appeal that we have before us right now.
I don't see any middle ground, but you're reading it differently than I am then. Mr. Orrock?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify, because at number 2, is it only talking about compromise of hours, or is it compromise on change of location and so forth, I guess is my concern. Let's get that squared away first. I think Jack was basically saying compromise and not necessarily talking about the hours, because we could have a hand in that, as I understand.
Yes, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council, the wording in number 2 could be adjusted to fit whatever situation the council wants to. If you want it to be about hours, as well as a consideration of using 118 during certain hours, or it could be just about hours, or it could just be left more open, particularly if it comes back, that work something out and come back. That's if the council is interested.
Madam Mayor, I would like to see us give the owner and the tenants, the two tenants, the opportunity to work it out. It's not like it's not going to come back to us and we don't have the opportunity then to vote and deny it or whatever, but it would be nice to at least have them see if the 3 of them can get together and work out something that works for everybody, and if not, and it comes back to us and we don't like it or we don't feel that it's a good compromise, or...
And I'm kind of thinking on the go here, and Councilmember Waterfield has brought up a very good point. I'm still not comfortable with even the idea of having wineries in these industrial
Absolutely.
locations that are unlike, I mean, I look at some of them like Costa de Oro and the Santa Maria Brewery where they are isolated. They're kind of off by themselves. In Santa Maria Brewery's case, I mean, they were there first, and so anybody that comes in knows that,
Absolutely.
that there's something.
And you're absolutely right. There is a safety issue here, and we have talked this to death, and they've had meetings, and I think we just need to make that decision tonight of, especially what we just learned tonight with everyone involved, that it's just not safe environment and the
Do you want to make a
compatibility. And I would like to make a motion.
I made the one motion already, so
Oh, okay.
I don't know if I have a
I'm
second.
sorry. I didn't know it was a
What motion did you make?
On number 2.
Oh, okay.
Motion revised that it come back to the city council, that any decision come back to the city council.
And I would second that motion.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve number 2. Madam Clerk, any other discussion here? Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Councilmember Boyson?
Aye.
Councilmember Zuniga?
Aye.
Councilmember Oroff?
Aye.
Councilmember Waterfield?
No.
Madam Mayor Patino?
No.
So, but I guess, just following up, I would like to reiterate with staff that I do think that we need to come up with, not perhaps formal policy, but I think we need to come up with some guidelines of what we are comfortable with. And maybe this is part of our council planning commission joint sessions that this
downtown
kind
thing, yeah.
of needs
And-
to be, and
and
part of
also-
our downtown specific plan as well. Thank you.
In addition to that, Mrs. Schmidt had indicated that because of the expense of creating a tasting room, she couldn't go to another location. Maybe there might be incentives to offer for wine tasting areas so that people can do startups there.
Okay, the hearing is,
So I think,
it's closed.
Mr.
Yeah.
McFoy, I would
Yes.
just direct Mr. McFoy, maybe you can have a conversation with Mr. Gilly separately if there are issues.
Oh, okay, we've closed the hearing, Ms. Lovoy, so you can talk to Mr. Gilly and they'll be fine. Next order of business is our last public hearing of the evening. Madam Clerk, could you please read the title?
City Council will consider adopting an urgency ordinance to establish a moratorium on the manufacturing, processing, laboratory testing, labeling, and storing of cannabis, and introduce for first reading and continue to the next meeting for second reading and adoption an ordinance establishing a moratorium on the same.
Staff report is to be made by Assistant City Attorney, Ms. Mollenkopf.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and City Council. We're back again on this very topical subject of the use of medical marijuana and perhaps recreational marijuana within the city's jurisdiction. So what is before you tonight are 2 ordinances. Both are being offered to you under the Government Code, Section 65858, which provides for urgency findings. In the first situation, it would be an urgency ordinance that would become effective immediately upon its passage by a 4/5 vote, establishing a moratorium on the manufacturing, processing, laboratory testing, labeling, storing, wholesale, and retail distribution of cannabis. The second ordinance is essentially a fail-safe ordinance because it would require a second reading. It would then become a moratorium that went into effect 30 days after its passage at a second reading. But it would ban the same items I just previously listed. The impetus for these ordinances is multifactorial. First of all, our current municipal code speaks to dispensaries and it speaks to cultivation. It does not speak to these other myriad of issues that have come to the forefront given recent laws that are passing and also the recreational use proposition that will be on our ballot in November. And so the City Attorney's Office was contacted by several individuals asking what the requirements were and the zoning requirements were for opening manufacturing laboratories and other such facilities. And so because we have not had the opportunity to study the types of zoning or regulatory or taxation mechanisms that the City Council may be interested in directing us to inquire about, we felt that these moratoriums were important so that in the interim we didn't have operations coming online that then would become legal non-conforming uses. So with that, I'm welcome to any questions.
Any questions of Ms. Malika?
I have just two.
Ms. Zuniga?
Thank you so much.
Yes.
So where it says retail distribution, that's not going to affect the current level of distribution that we have in our community?
No, exactly. The current state of the statutes is, as we have discussed previously, that you have to specifically ban delivery, and this ordinance does not address deliveries.
Thank you. And then just the second question, it also doesn't distinguish between recreational or medical, right? It's just all?
It's all cannabis.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Any other questions? None?
Okay.
Madam Clerk, do you have any written correspondence?
Do not, no, I'm sorry.
So I'd like to open the public hearing. Madam Clerk, do you have any requests to speak in favor or in opposition to this item?
No, Madam Mayor, we do not.
Okay. I close the public hearing, bring this back to the council for discussion or a motion.
Okay, unless there's a discussion, I'll go ahead and make
Any
a motion.
discussion? Okay.
I'd like to make the motion. Can I throw these two together? To adopt urgency ordinance number 2016-18 to be adopted to establish moratorium on manufacturing, processing, laboratory testing, labeling, and storing of cannabis. And also adopt ordinance number 2016-9 to be introduced for the first reading and continue to the next meeting for second reading and adoption, establishing a moratorium on the manufacturing, processing, laboratory testing, labeling, and storing of cannabis.
Second.
I have a motion to introduce ordinance number 2016-19 and to continue the next meeting for adoption. And on 2016-18. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Councilmember Ora?
Aye.
Councilmember Boyson?
Aye.
Councilmember Zuniga?
Aye.
Councilmember Waterfield? Madam Mayor Patino?
Aye. Next item is a regular business item. Madam Clerk, could you please read the title?
The City Council will receive the quarterly financial report for the fourth quarter of 2015-16 and adopt a resolution approving budget amendments to the 2015-16 fiscal year and authorizing the city manager to implement the same.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I believe the city manager would like to address the council.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council. At this time, I'd like to publicly introduce Mary Harvey as our new Director of Finance for the City of Santa Maria. As many of you know, Mary has worked for the city since 2003. She started off as the accounting manager, and then she moved up to accounting and budgeting manager. Mary holds a bachelor's degree from Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, go Mustangs, and also holds a MBA from the University of La Verne. Mary's function, she oversees the accounting activities of the city, budgeting, treasury, investments, business license, purchasing, accounts payable, utility billings, and payroll. That all comes underneath her auspice. Tonight, she will be presenting the fourth quarter report for the year ending fiscal year 15-16.
Ms. Harvey.
Good morning, or good evening, Honorable Mayor, council members, staff, and the public. Tonight, I will briefly present the fourth quarter financial report for period ending June 30th, 2016. Although these are not audited numbers and balances will change as normal year-end adjustments are recorded, the report does give a general picture of how the city ended the fiscal year. This report will primarily review the general fund, including Measure U, and the enterprise funds. The general fund beginning fund balance of $10.1 million is the audited balance at July 1st, 2015. Regarding revenues, 5 out of the 6 key revenue sources exceeded budgets and were greater than prior fiscal year receipts. Sales tax had the largest gain at $2.4 million, or 12.5% more than last year. Solid auto sales and increases in building and construction and restaurant categories contributed to sales tax gains. Permit revenue was at $2.9 million versus $2.7 million at June 30th, 2015. When I say permit revenue, I am mainly talking about construction-related permit revenue. On the flip side, NHIS revenue came in at 83.2% of budget at almost $1.5 million. That's about $300,000 less than what we had anticipated. In fact, NHIS revenues have not been this low since fiscal year 2005-06. By way of comparison, last fiscal year, the city received $2.9 million in NHIS revenue. Accordingly, we received $1.4 million less in NHIS revenues than we did last fiscal year. Expenditures in the general fund through June are at 95.1% of budget, which is primarily due to budget savings from vacancies and departments holding down operational expenditures. Concerning Measure U, revenues through the fourth quarter were at $4.1 million and are almost 100% of budget. They came in just under budget by 0.3%. Expenditures are slightly lower than budget at 97.3%. Through June, roughly 91.2% of all expenditures were public safety related, with 43.4% spent on fire operations and 47.8% spent on police operations. Turning to the enterprise funds, the water and wastewater fund revenues exceeded expenditures by $6.2 million. Expenditures included the annual debt service payment of $4.6 million of principal and interest on the 2012 refunding bonds. For the solid waste fund, expenditures exceeded revenues by $406,000. Again, these are unaudited numbers, but it does provide an overview of how we ended the fiscal year. In conjunction with the fourth quarter financial report, staff is recommending 3 budget amendments for council's consideration. That concludes my staff report, and I'm available to answer any questions.
Any questions?
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Mr. Boyson?
I do have a couple of comments. Actually, Ms. Harvey and I have had a chance to discuss this just a little bit. I did want to point out on the bottom of page 2 of the quarterly financial report, there's an item, other revenues, where budget was $19 million, but the actual receipts show only $16.4 million. That being due, as Ms. Harvey explained to me, that the leaf adjustment has not been placed in there. We had a $3.5 million allocation for leaf last year in the budget. That hasn't been included. However, if we look at the expenditures, which are only around $600,000 or $700,000 over that $62.5 million, it looks like we'll only have to use about $700,000 of that leaf to make up, obviously, assuming other adjustments. I did also ask her for a copy of the breakdown of those other revenues, and I did have one question that Mr. Hayden was going to get me an answer on, and I don't know, have you been able to provide that?
No, Mr. Boyson. Your question was on the fines and forfeitures?
Yes.
And what the increase in the fines and forfeitures were. I was not able to drill down deep enough into the budget to find that yet.
Okay, maybe you can just give me that separately. Other than that, that's the only thing I have. I'm very encouraged. It looks good. Hopefully, the audit figures will come in maybe even a little bit better after we do all of our accruals and do our fancy pencil work and that sort of thing that I'm sure Moss Levy will be able to do. But and I do feel that the budget amendments, all 3 of them, would be appropriate at this time. So with that, I'd be happy to.
I have somebody else that would like to make a comment. Ms. Zuniga?
That was very impressive, though. Thank you, Mayor. Welcome. So I just wanted to make notice of, on the bottom of page 3 and the top of page 4, is the police, community development, public works, and possibly the city manager's office all came in under budget due to the fact that we have vacancies, which means we have staff out there doing more work because we have less people. So I just wanted to make note of that. Thank you.
Any other comments? Okay, Mr. Boyson?
With that, I would move for the adoption of resolution number 2016-116, and also to compliment Ms. Harvey on her first quarterly report.
Excellent
Thank you
job.
very much.
I'll second that.
Okay. I have a motion to adopt resolution 2016-116 and a second. Any other discussion? Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Councilmember Boyson?
Aye.
Councilmember Oroff?
Aye.
Councilmember Waterfield? Aye. Councilmember Zuniga?
Aye.
Madam Mayor Patino?
Aye. Next item will be the report by our city manager, Mr. Hayden.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council. Your next City Council meeting will be 3 weeks from this evening, the 6th of September. We will be having 2 second readings on the consent agenda. One is the cannabis ordinance that you just passed a few minutes ago, and the other one is the development agreement with Windset Farms. Another notable item on the consent agenda will be the award of bid. We're up for our annual chip seal maintenance project in the city. And then we will be having 2 public hearings. One is a general plan zone change for the Betaravia Road and A Street corner. And then another one is the first reading of the use of tobacco in city parks and public spaces. That was an item that originally was going to be here this evening, and we asked to defer it until the meeting of the 6th of September. And that concludes my staff report.
Thank you. Now we'll hear oral reports from council. Mr. Boyce?
Sure, Madam Mayor, I have no required reporting. I would like to just, and Councilmember Rorak actually kind of inspired me on this, that as far as the winery ordinance, I see Mr. Gelly is still out negotiating, but as far as the wineries are concerned in industrial areas and where it's appropriate and that sort of thing, I really do agree with him that this should be an integral part of the downtown specific plan study of where in the city, whether, as Ms. Waterfield said, maybe there are other areas of the city besides downtown. I know certainly it would be certainly welcome to bring folks downtown, but if I think that would certainly be a benefit if we used that forum to study the possible wineries throughout the city of Santa Maria, but no required reporting.
Well, that would be a great goal then for the committee you're going to be, guys
Yes.
are going to be on. So you guys figure that out. Okay.
So
That's it.
So it sounds like
Over a glass of wine.
It sounds
Yeah, I can tell
like
that.
we have total control on that, Councilmember Waterfield.
You came back with the water deal for the
There you go.
measure, what the
Suspended table rate.
extended measure rate out there.
Cool.
Mr. Rorak?
I didn't bring anything with me, and I don't think I had anything that was reportable, so I'll move along
Pass
so we
on
can
over to me.
get home early, huh?
Yeah, on
Ms. Waterfield.
Wednesday, August 3rd, I did the Ben Hay Show with the post-city council meeting. On August 9th, I met with Golden Bear. I attended the Santa Maria. What do you mean you didn't do anything? Right here is the Santa Maria Chamber of Commerce Awards. And what did you receive? Talk about it.
I was
Bob
given
Grogan.
the Robert Grogan Award, and I happen to work for, I've worked for all the city managers since Grogan, and he was here for a century, so it's almost like I've worked for everyone that's managed the city for 11 years now, something like that. Very appreciative. I see Glenn out there. Actually, it was nice that they tell you up front so that they can pick your brain and get people like Alice and Alex over there to say some nice comments. I've tried to figure out I could download that to send to all my friends and relatives, but they really don't care. Anyway, it was very nice, and I'm very appreciative and very honored to have received that award. And you were all there, and it was a nice night. And of course, Ed Murray received Citizen of the Year, and then we had a couple of nice companies, small and big companies that got nice awards. So thank you very much. That's it.
And I think we all attended the PG&E's briefing this morning, and then attended the, looking at my calendar, is the Central Coast Literacy Council this evening, or before the meeting, and that's it.
Ms. Sivnikin?
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate that. I, too, met with Golden Bear Winery and attended the PG&E briefing and, of course, the Central Coast Literacy Council Strawberry social tonight. And then I also went to the soft opening for the Business Development Center, which was formerly the MIYB spaces over on Main Street. So if you haven't been over there on Lincoln, it wasn't a hard opening, it was just a soft opening, but it's really impressive what they've done with that building, including all the outside landscaping. So if you haven't had a chance to go by, I'd encourage you to go by. It looks great over there. Nice fit for the neighborhood, and the stores, coming up is going to be really nice for that too. Nice compliment to that. And then attended the Chamber Awards dinner as well. Congratulations, Councilmember Orak. It was nice to see you and all your family there and meet your son. That was nice. And enjoyed the comedian was a nice addition. So that was fun. Thank you for that. And then I attended the Good Samaritan Services Back to School Shopping Spree, which is tons of fun. We take youth from the homeless shelter on a shopping spree. This year we did it at Target. It's been at Kohl's years in the past, but this year we went to Target. And this was the first year I had a little boy, so that was interesting. He was a very serious shopper, knew exactly what he wanted and what combination of colors he wanted, but that's always really nice. And we had a lot of sheriff's officers out there, so that was really nice. They were excited. They were passing out the little paste-on badges to the kids and stuff, and they really enjoyed that. And then similar to that, I volunteered with the Stuff the Bus Project, which is a United Way in Santa Maria Bonita School District event to literally stuff a school bus full of school supplies. So I was out there on Friday. It was a 3-day event, and by Sunday the bus is literally full from top to bottom. So that was really exciting to know that kids whose families can't afford them are going to be able to have all the school supplies they need. And then I attended a St. John Newman's Fiesta over at Buena Vista Park, and it was really nice out there with all the new added amenities and the lawn area and everything. It was really nice. It was a nice event. And then I just wanted to mention that we have the Hometown Hero signs up on College. So if you haven't had a chance, the public hasn't had a chance to go by and see them, they're really nice. And then if you could, Commander Green, just pass on to Chief Martin. I was at the Downtown Friday event, and Santa Maria Police Department, of course, has a booth there. And watching the interaction of the officers and a lot of the young people that were coming out when I was buying produce, they were high-fiving and talking, and there's some really important engagement going on with young people. So I really appreciate the department being out there for part of that, in addition to just kind of the patrolling, actually having a booth. So thank you for that. That's it, Mayor.
Yes, Mr. Boyce.
If I could just piggyback onto Ms. Zuniga, I wasn't going to be so crass as to do a commercial announcement at this time, but I will say that the Deputy Sheriff's Association of the County of Santa Barbara donated $1,000 to the annual Kids Spree for Good Samaritan Shelter. I just throw that out to Commander Green and Chief Kinley that they might want to mention that to their own associations. Next year, we will be back. Thank you.
Okay. From August 4th through 5th, I attended the Santa Barbara Fiesta Rodeo because my grandkids participate and my son. August 9th, I met with Golden Bear, also met with Rob Hamoto from the Railroad. That evening, watched Josh Pernot race, get his silver. August 10th, we all attended the San Maria Valley Chamber of Commerce annual installation and awards dinner. And August 11th, I spoke to Newt. What? And this guy got this award, and you gave a very good speech. We were.
He did. I don't remember.
Yeah.
But your
nice.
son is very handsome,
Yeah.
and so I don't know what gene he got, but hey.
August 11th, spoke to the Noontime Kiwanis and told them how wonderful Santa Maria was and how many good things are going on. I went to watch the first fight that Carlos Balderas fought, and then I went on August 12th to watch the second fight. And we all decided that that was rigged because he knocked the guy down twice. Twice he knocked him down. So anyway, he had our vote there at the Maldonado Center. That afternoon, we went to the Hope Missionary Baptist Church. They had their spaghetti feed. That evening, I went to the Friday night downtown. And I also was talking to the policemen. They were saying it was so nice that this has really been great for them, that people come up and get in conversations, and it's been very positive. August 16th, I did the Ben Hayes show. I did the PG&E briefing. attended the Central Coast Literacy Council for their Strawberry Social, which was also my dinner. And there was a couple of other things on my calendar, but I couldn't make all of them tonight, so that was it. And so now the City Council will now recess to a closed session. Madam Clerk, could you please read the title of the closed session item?
Conference with legal counsel, existing litigation pursuant to Section 54956.9, Subdivision D1 of the Government Code, Connie Mascarenas versus the City of Santa Maria et al.
Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes tonight's council meeting. Good night.